back to the stage. How are you? Was it a good lunch? Do I want to hear the answer? We have the next amazing stream coming up on the stage. How to drive engagement through content, and truly amazing speakers from music industry. We have content creators from all around the ecosystem. So I'm sure it's going to be a very, very interesting one. And actually, the hottest thing is that it's been moderated by somebody whose priority is talking about the content, how to create it, how to make it more engaging, etc., etc., etc. So I would love to welcome here on stage a person who actually is doing things. He's living through content. Brian Morrissey. Brian, you're too quick. Hi, good to meet you. Okay, Brian.
I jumped the gun a little bit.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
When did you fly? You flew yesterday.
I got in early yesterday morning, so I'm still getting adjusted. I was up at 3 a.m. this morning, but that's okay.
I hope you enjoy WebEd, and I'm leaving here the floor to you and to the participants in the stream. You have a really challenging one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Plummet. This is a great event. I've really been enjoying it. Thank you for being here and not outside. I know a lot of people are outside. It's beautiful weather. You know, this is a really interesting topic, and it's engagement through content. And a lot of times you'll hear a lot of talk about technology here and enabling the deliver of advertising. But at the end of the day, the media business is about creating content and gathering audiences around that content. And we've got some great speakers today to talk just about that. And we're going to talk about the challenges that are created in the modern media world, because the fact is, the internet has delivered on its promise of nearly infinite content. But with that comes a scarcity of attention, and everyone is challenged to try to find that attention that is so hard to do nowadays with the amount of fragmentation out there. So the way it's going to work, we've got 4 different presentations, and I'm going to give a very quick one, and then we're going to have a panel discussion. But to lead things off, I want to bring the panelists out here. So guys, if you want to come on out and join me. And we're gonna take a seat, and then we're gonna get started with Gary from Spotify. So Gary and everyone else, if you could come on out, please. Okay, awesome, guys, thank you. The couch is yours.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. All right, it's crowded. I hope we have enough seats. So we're gonna start off with Gary Liu. Gary is the Global Director of Ad Product Strategy at Spotify. And he's gonna be talking about brands engaging through music. Gary, the floor is yours. I do not have the clicker.
Does anyone in the audience have a clicker? Let's look for the clicker. This looks like a clicker. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see if this clicker works. Yes, it does. I grew up in New Zealand, which means that at one point in my life, I had a much more intelligent sounding, much more sophisticated accent than the American one I carry today. And when I was growing up there, I managed to fall in love with an American sport, which is baseball. In 1997, I moved to the US, and in 1998, I visited Yankee Stadium for the first time, and I was a fan of the New York Yankees. Now, this was a huge moment for me, but surprisingly, I only have one clear memory from that day. In the second inning, Yankees first baseman Tino Martinez walked up to the plate, and the stadium played Bubba O'Reilly by The Who. First time I'd ever heard that song. And paraphrasing the great Bob Marley, the music hit me without causing any pain. From that moment, and for many years afterwards, Bubba O'Reilly was my favorite song, Tino Martinez was my favorite athlete, and Yankee Stadium felt like home. You see, the amazing thing about music is that it can do extraordinary things to us. It changes the way we perceive the world. And even though it is intimately personal, music is still so incredibly social. That's why music is really one of the most powerful weapons that a brand can bring to the battle for consumer loyalty. Now, these two incredibly intelligent men have spent 20 plus years studying music psychology. And during that time, they've been able to quantify the incredible effects that music has for a brand. They found that brands with a strong musical identity are recalled 96% more often than brands without, and that consumers are much more likely to buy products that they can associate with music that they like. In physical stores, people actually stay 60% longer because of music, and that leads to about a 38% increase in overall sales. So not surprisingly, almost all brands that we've ever talked to have told us that music is important to them. However, 70% of them don't spend any money on music marketing. And when we ask them why, the same two questions come up over and over again. The first is they ask, what does my brand actually sound like? And the second is, what does consumer engagement through music actually look like? The thing is, we found that the answer to both of these questions is actually in the identity of the consumer as a music lover. So over the course of the last 2 years, Spotify has become obsessed with finding out more about that consumer. We started off by asking 750 people around the world what kind of media and what kind of personal interest they could not live without. Music scored 100. What this meant was that we could not find a single person who would tell us that they can live without music. Now, as we dug deeper into the psyche and the behavior of our consumers, we found 4 really exciting insights that I want to share with you guys today. The first learning is that consumers actually contextualize music within moments. Now, these moments could be moments throughout your life, like a graduation, a wedding, or the birth of a child. Or they can be moments throughout a day, like your morning commute, an early morning run, or an intimate dinner with friends. The second learning is that through these moments, there are 5 primary ways that users use music, consumers do. It's to motivate them, to amplify what they're feeling, to regulate their mood, to help them express, and to help them connect with one another, with expression and connection being by far the most important. These 5 uses across all moments of the day actually leads to incredible amount of engagement. On a platform like ours, for instance, we see 107 minutes per user per day. That's 107 minutes that a consumer is saying, come sing to me, to whichever artist they're listening to. Now, this usage happens throughout the day, and it peaks every week on Fridays around happy hour. Because we all know that a beer tastes just a little bit sweeter with Avicii thumping away in the background. Which brings me to our third learning, that the music we listen to completely changes depending on the activities that we're engaging in. This may sound very logical, but I'm going to show you a few examples and a few patterns that we found. The first is, if you look at the 600,000 study playlists that exist on Spotify, you'll find that the 5 most popular songs among all of them are all classical masterpieces, nothing else. This is pattern number 1. The second example brings us to the Super Bowl halftime show that 100 million Americans watch every single year. Now, this year, Beyoncé and Destiny's Child performed. And in the weeks following the performance, we saw Destiny's Child's greatest hits have a 500% increase in plays. And for Beyoncé herself, she saw a 300% bump in streams of her music. This is an exceptional amount of increase in streams. So if you suddenly started to listen to Destiny's Child again in February, I can be pretty sure that you watched the Super Bowl. The third example brings us to the backyard American barbecue, which we all wish looked like that, but almost always ends up looking like this. Now, the third pattern is really easy to spot. If we take a look at how frequent people edit barbecue playlists in the US. As you can see on a weekly basis, Saturday is by far the most popular day, and every single year, there's a huge spike on July 4th, which is our national holiday of overcooked hamburgers and undercooked hot dogs. All of these kinds of patterns can be found across pretty much any moment, any activity. When we take all of these patterns and data points together, we can actually craft an incredibly accurate picture of what a person's life looks like based on the music that they listen to. That brings us to our fourth learning. It turns out that the world's most active music listeners also happen to be the world's most active influencers in their communities. Spotify's active user base, about 40% of them sit in what we call the early adopter bucket. These are the folks that try products first, that use social media on a daily basis, and that are able to change the behavior of their friends and family. The way they do it, by the way, is by sharing incessantly on social networks. If you take a look at the major attributes and activities on a social network, you'll find that these active music listeners over-index against the general population by a significant amount, which means that it's no surprise that Sounds Like Branding found in 2010 that 50% of all social media activity actually revolves around music. Let's go back to that 70% of brands who don't really know how to work with music and marketing. With these 4 insights over the course of the last year, we've been developing and refining 3 really, really easy steps to help those brands, and pretty much any brand, develop an incredibly efficient and meaningful musical identity. I'm sharing these with you today. Step number 1, identify your audience and own a moment, an emotion, or an activity. We're using Reebok as an example here. They decided to own the workout because their audience are the folks who need a little bit of extra motivation to get fit. Step number 2, have an opinion about what great music sounds like within the context of your identity. For Reebok, they got world-famous athletes to curate incredible workout playlists under their name. And then step number 3, become a tastemaker and get people to come to you to find great music. Reebok accomplished this by building a utility called FitList that allows you and me to go and create awesome, unique workout playlists whenever we want by choosing the exercise we're about to do and the artist that we really, really like. I'm going to end on 2 more case studies, 2 more examples of brands who've done an exceptional job turning these 3 easy steps into incredible consumer engagement. And when we're talking about incredible consumer engagement, I'm talking about audio and display click-through rates that are far beyond market. I'm talking about brand awareness and brand recall that also do extremely well compared to most industry benchmarks. The first of these examples is Universal Pictures, a campaign for their movie Pitch Perfect. Now in this campaign, they asked users to enter in their own personal attributes, consumers. And after watching a movie trailer for the movie, the consumer got back a unique 40-song playlist created just for them, as well as a character match from the movie. Very, very easy campaign. It created unbelievable engagement. Over 17 minutes per user was spent on this campaign. And as of right now, 3,000 plus hours spent listening to the playlists that were generated. And very last is Bacardi, a brand inherently tied to music. They wanted to bring the party to their consumers. And naturally, we thought that a big green bus that was packed with amazing indie artists that had a Bacardi bar in it and speakers all over the place was the best way of doing this.
Yes, fake grass, super hot outside, and lots of nice people.
Why can't you?
Music moves people, man.
People like your own brother.
It is always better when there's
Why
an
can't
audience.
you?
I don't know, everybody seemed pretty excited to see us. It was a really fun feeling.
Why can't you?
I'm actually going to stop this video. It's quite long. Now, over the course of 6 months, Bacardi managed to engage with 190,000 fans in person by throwing 34 different parties and serving 32,000 cocktails. And by the way, they did this all while generating 350 million impressions for their brand online. I'm going to leave everyone here with a very simple question. What is your musical identity? Regardless of whether or not you're here representing a huge brand or a startup in Startup Alley, Or if you're just an individual who loves music, the answer is worth finding. Thank you.
Excellent. Gary, thank you. That was not only a great kickoff to this stream, but it also, I think you actually ignited a sort of revolt against the Webbit music that I'm seeing on Twitter. It seems like a lot of people are not crazy about the Webbit music. I like it, but I could be wrong. I next want to introduce Ali Abari. Ali is the CEO of Spectrum Media, the largest radio broadcasting company in Turkey, and he is going to discuss with us trends in online audio. Ali.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's a great follow-up from Gary's presentation. I want to spend a few minutes to talk to you about some of the implications and trends in the global online audio sector. But before I begin, I wanted to share with you a story that I read recently, which I found very fascinating. If you ever get a chance to go to South Minneapolis, Minnesota, just outside of town in a nondescript office park, you'll find a company called Orfield Laboratories. Now, Orfield is the brainchild of a gentleman by the name of Stephen Orfield. It is a lab that's used by companies to test the sound levels of their various products. So, for example, Harley-Davidson uses it to test its new, quieter motorcycle engines. Now, Orfield is very famous for its anechoic chamber. This is a room that's in the lab that has 3-foot thick walls of concrete and steel around it. This anechoic chamber is considered to be the quietest room in the world. It has a sound level of -9 decibels. It's so quiet that the occupants in the room can actually begin to start hearing their own heartbeat. You can hear your lungs work. You can even hear your intestines move. If you spend a lot of time in the chamber, you'll actually start to feel some imbalance, and you'll have inner ear imbalances. And if you're in the room for more than 30 minutes, you'll actually have to sit down. You won't be able to stand up. I found that very, very fascinating when there's no sound. What I found fascinating about this is the sometimes overlooked importance that sound has in our lives. Music, voices, the cacophony of everyday noises that we hear, this is the soundtrack of our day-to-day lives. And so it's no wonder that in the face of this, audio is taking its rightful place in the digital world. We now see companies and brands ranging from radio stations to startups to Apple and Google, all taking a place in this stage, and they're building services based on this fundamental element of our lives, which is sound. Now, having said that, let me start off by sharing a few slides from Kleiner Perkins's Mary Meeker. As Ms. Meeker pointed out earlier this year, the total amount of digital content that is being shared and created by people throughout the world has gone up by 9 times. This is all of those videos, those Spotify playlists, the status updates, and vacation photos that we're sharing with each other. By 2015, that's projected to be as much as 8 zettabytes, which is 8 trillion gigabytes. To give you a sense for how much that is, that's 64,000 2-hour HD movies being shared every second. It's a lot of sharing. So it's no wonder that digital media are far outpacing the growth that we see in traditional media. Americans are spending 26% of their time on the internet and 12% on mobile, but only 22% and 3% of ad dollars, respectively, are being spent on those media. This represents the biggest untapped opportunity in the U.S., one worth more than $20 billion and growing. Now, why is this happening? Well, part of that growth is due to the cannibalization of content that's taking place, coming from traditional media. Print, radio, and TV are all giving up share to internet and mobile platforms, whether it be in the form of text or photos, video, or audio. So this migration path is only in its early stages right now. It started with photos. Flickr and Instagram are in. Kodak and Polaroid are out. But now the focus is on video. YouTube, Vimeo, even short-form videos like Vine. But the next natural migration path is sound. Spotify, Pandora, SoundCloud, Deezer, Slacker. These are all some of the different companies that are helping to shape the next stage of the migration of sound in the digital world. So there's a number of different technologies that are driving this, and we see this happening from the technical labs around the world. Whether it's high-quality compact wireless speakers, Bluetooth-enabled devices, noise cancellation technology, connected audio, connected cars, all of these are enabling a new world of online-enabled audio around us. And having said that, and I think as a good follow-on to the Spotify presentation, we see that online music is becoming more and more adopted around the world. It's no wonder that the consumption of streaming music is now quickly becoming a global phenomenon. Whether it's desktop or tablet or mobile, or soon wearable devices or the connected car, the consumption of music via streaming is becoming a worldwide accepted standard, whether it's in India or China, the US or UK. And one of the drivers of that has been the fast adoption of smartphones around the world. As users reach for their phones about 150 times per day, about 10% of the time, it's something to do with music that they're reaching for that phone. And therefore, it's no surprise that the second biggest publisher of mobile advertising in the world is Pandora, the leading internet radio company in the US. This is simply because audio simply has a better advantage over display ads on that small screen on your mobile phone. It's the advantage of the echoic memory of audio over the iconic memory of a display ad. And at the same time, within this context, we see that the acceptance of online radio around the world is growing tremendously. In the US, it's projected by 2015 about 186 million people, that's 64% of the population, 12 plus, will be listening to online radio on a regular monthly basis. This is the same here in Turkey as well, where about half of the entire listening of radio is taking place on internet and internet-enabled devices. What's more interesting is not only that people are augmenting their normal media behaviors with this online world, but in some cases they're actually replacing those behaviors. In the US, 18% of all weekly radio listeners that were surveyed said they listen exclusively to online radio. They don't listen to AM, FM at all, and many of them, especially the younger generations, don't even know what a radio is. They may not have even seen one. And one of the drivers of this is the acceptance of legal music services around the world. Long gone are those days of illegal peer-to-peer downloading services being the only ways of getting your hands on digital music. Today's services, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, Vivo, Pandora, they're all fully legal, they're owned by major companies, and they all benefit from branding and marketing and the ecosystems that are helping drive their awareness and their acceptance. You see this in iTunes. iTunes recently launched iTunes Radio. They're trying to take advantage of that same ecosystem to drive their listening rates. And as soon as you have increased awareness, you also have increased adoption. So naturally, we see around the world that the highest adopters of legal music services are the youth, 16 to 24-year-olds. Furthermore, what's more interesting is in this space, which has been dominated for the past 100 years or so by old-fashioned radio companies, it's great to see that radio stations and radio groups are taking a clicks and mortar, or an online and FM, if you will, approach to this as well. So in the US, which streaming service do you listen to most typically in a month? Amongst the top 3 most popular answers are services that are owned by FM radio station groups. So where is this all heading? Where we see the real battleground for this service, for online audio, is the connected car. This is where ground zero of the online audio sector is predicted to be in the next few years. In the next 2 years, they're forecasting that Pandora's connected car and appliance listening is actually going to surpass desktop listening. Furthermore, in the past year or so, the 3 big automakers in the US, Chrysler, Ford, and GM, have all announced that they're going to stop investing in R&D for FM radio in their cars, but are going to focus that more on in-car apps and connected applications. So 2 minutes on our company and what we do. We are, as was introduced, we are the largest FM radio broadcaster in Turkey, Spectrum Media. But at the same time, we are also the operator of the largest online digital radio platform in the country called Carnival.com. Carnival has, in the past year and a half of its evolution, become the 8th largest radio streaming service in the world. We operate about 21 million hours of streaming to 6.5 million unique users monthly. And just this past month, we were selected by Wired UK as one of the 100 hottest startups in Europe and the #1 hottest startup in Istanbul. We think that's fantastic that a radio station group can help be in the same sphere as all these other great, wonderful startups. And at the same time, I think it's a great testament to what is going to be the next big thing, which is audio. Thank you.
Excellent. Ali, thank you very much. I think there's two important slides in there. They're all important, but two that stood out, both from Mary Meeker. The amount of content created is going through the roof, and then the monetization is trailing. So I think those are going to be two big topics for us to discuss in the panel. So we heard about the audio side. What about video? Video seems to be the next. And to kick that off, we've got Nick Jones. Nick Jones is the Senior Vice President of International for Vivo, which we saw up there. Nick.
Good afternoon to you all. It appears that we're running a little bit short of time, so in the interest of that, I had an approximately 100-page slide deck to show you. I'm actually going to show you one video. But before I show you that video, I just wanted to talk a bit about the importance of video and music video and the importance of it in today's marketing mix. Because you see, if you go back 25 years, the music video was quite simply a promotional device to sell a CD or maybe a music tour. And where we're at today with videos is that videos are, without question, the most important piece of content that any artist might develop or create to give their fans, give their potential listeners the opportunity to understand what they stand for, who they are, and to connect with them. And 4 years ago, Universal Music and Sony Music decided that the importance of music videos was so much that they wanted to build a business based on music video and the opportunity to monetize that music video. And so Vivo was launched just under 4 years ago. In 4 years, we've now become the largest music channel on the planet. We do around about 4.5 billion video views every month, and we reach 250 million users. To give you an idea of where Turkey fits into that, for those of you who are local, last month in Turkey we did 150 million video views, all on YouTube. And my role as head of international is to try and develop the Vivo brand and build Vivo owned and operated applications across the world. So very recently we've just launched in Germany, and the fact that I'm here today is a sign that we are now starting to consider how we might engage with the Turkish population and how we might be able to build Vivo here in Turkey. But ultimately, it's about the artists and it's about the music. You might have seen recently that we broke the record for the most video views for a new video in 24 hours when Miley Cyrus sat on a big wrecking ball with very few clothes on, and 19.9 million video views happened in less than 24 hours. And indeed, she reached 100 million video views in just over 6 days. One Direction have very recently tried to beat that record, and I am sure that we will see that record surpassed within the next few weeks with some of the very big video launches that are due before the end of the year. But the importance is the artists, is giving the artist a platform to connect with their fans. We aren't just a music video premiere platform, we make lots of our own content. We've just surpassed 1,000 pieces of original content, in fact. And the video I'm about to show you just gives you an idea of some of the breadth of Vivo. The last point I want to make is the importance of mobile. One of the things that I can't believe is that people watch many more videos and spend much more time when they watch it on mobile device or a connected device. And at the moment, for example, in Germany, where we've just launched, over 60% of all of our views are on a mobile or connected device. But maybe to show you the video, it says it a whole lot better than I do.
When audiences around the world watch their favorite music videos, they're watching entertainment powered by Vivo. In fact, most music viewing experiences happening at this very moment are taking place across our platform. Vivo videos draw 235 million global visitors online each month and 46 billion cross-platform views a year, or 6 views for every person on the planet. We reach over 10 million UK viewers a month, 60% under the age of 34. Vivo is the #1 music video platform, and the power and reach of music is unparalleled. Our viewers are as diverse as the artists we feature, whether it's a bit of 2 Chainz or Two Door Cinema Club. Our demographic makeup is split right down the middle, so we leave it to the viewers to decide who runs the world.
Girls, girls, run the world. Girls.
Hold up.
We connect your brand to the audience you want. Our viewers return often, they're engaged, and they share their passions with others. 51% of our viewers are on smartphones, tablets, and connected TVs, and these users spend almost an hour each month watching Vivo-powered entertainment. Today, we power more entertainment experiences than almost any other provider. We attract the largest youth audience outside of YouTube, with a higher proportion of 18 to 24-year-old viewers than MTV, Muzu, Yahoo or Microsoft. And our total UK audience is bigger than ITV, Channel 5, 4 and Sky's online video audiences combined. That's the scale and reach of music. That's the power of Vivo.
So that's Vivo, and as I said, the importance of music video and the opportunity that it offers the advertising market beyond what they've been able to use up until now is vitally important. And I hope that you all go and have a look at Vivo on YouTube in Turkey, and hopefully very soon you'll be able to go to vivo.com. Thanks very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nick. Amazing. I think it's an amazing testament to the power of video that you could build such a big brand in such a short time. And also a testament to Miley Cyrus. I think she knows what she's doing. So we're going to continue on the video track. We're going to go right now to Gary Wolf. Gary is the SVP of Digital and Business Development at All3 Media International. He's responsible for researching and implementing new and innovative commercial strategies in emerging and digital markets for a very large TV content producer. Gary, you have the floor.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So yeah, I come at this from the point of view of actually creating content to use on digital platforms, and hopefully in a moment we'll have a presentation up on the screen. Do we have a presentation? No? Okay. Well, look, I'm going to talk anyway, and we'll get the slides and catch up. It's not a big problem. So some of our biggest shows internationally are shows such as Skins, shows such as Midsummer Murders, there we go, shows such as Million Second Quiz, which we've just produced for NBC, and Undercover Boss, which is on air with CBS at the moment. Now, when I grew up, TV was not that difficult. It was actually very simple. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. The first TV set we had, I think we had 3 channels on, and all the content came through the TV aerial. And you know, if you wanted to watch something, you actually made sure that you saw it. So when JR got shot in Dallas, that was one of those moments that everyone just stopped what they were doing and tuned into Dallas. So it was an interesting time to grow up. It was really about appointment to view television. Of course, things evolved. Shortly we had pay TV that came along, and we had an epic number of TV stations. We had DVD players come along, but the main thing was that to schedule a whole evening's television I would go to one of those linear television broadcasters. And to be honest, because there were so many channels on the EPG, I would probably go to one of the top 3, what became 4, what became 5 channels coming through the aerial. Now, of course, over time, things have evolved. Video over internet protocol became more readily available. And the reality is that when internet connections became fast enough, for most people, the reality of viewing internet was still quite an isolated activity. It was something that happened in your bedroom or something that happened in your study. It wasn't something that you could do as a family, that you sit together. And I still believe that television is a very social activity. So we moved from a world where everything was locked onto one device and you couldn't take it with you. And that's sort of around about April 2009. And according to ComScore, people in the US were watching about 12.8 minutes of video per day on average. And that's just the people that are using the video. And we fast forward to a world of today, the connected world that we're talking about now, where content follows us around to any device, including the TV set. And suddenly you see a massive leap in the number of minutes that people are watching. So again, if we look to the US going back to September, so just 2 months ago, people are watching 40.3 minutes a day. This is the people that are actually watching digital video. And that pretty much equates to the length of a US commercial television program. Because of all the adverts, they tend to come in at 40 minutes. So it's a very interesting world that we've moved to. In the UK, we looked at on-demand on Virgin Media. Virgin Media is the UK's leading cable company. And if I go back 4 years ago, the average Virgin Media customer was watching round about 30 minutes of on-demand content. Today, that's gone up to about 50 minutes, so again, the length of a commercial piece of television in the UK market. And by 2017, according to our friends at Screen Digest, it's projected to hit 60 minutes. So that tells us something very interesting. It tells us that whatever we hear at conferences around the world, that pay TV actually isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Sure, there's been the threat of guys like Netflix, Hulu coming into the market, but actually, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, that has led to pay TV upping its game and evolving its model. Players such as Virgin, Sky, Comcast, all those kind of players have evolved their businesses from EPG-driven delivery of linear channels to one TV set in the home, to variations on what we call a TV Anywhere solution, with authenticated access to content away from the main screen and the ability to self-schedule from a wide range of on-demand content from their broadcast partners and from third parties. And in fact, if you look at these numbers from Screen Digest, pay TV is still going to be the largest part of video for the foreseeable future. We're still seeing a growth rate of round about 20% over a 5-year period, and that's not bad for a mature business. But what we're not seeing is simply more of the same. And that's the one thing that I think we all agree on, is that the world is evolving. We are seeing television evolve dramatically. Viewing is fragmenting, although overall minutes of viewing is increasing. Consumer choice has never been better, which is great unless you're a content producer. As over-the-top has grown, as pay TV has evolved to fight back, and many major broadcasters now offer their own catch-up services, effectively, the keys to the schedule have been unlocked. People can watch whatever they want, whenever they want. We've known this was coming, it is now here. So when my production companies at All3Media make a show, they've got to take in mind that they are going to be competing against Breaking Bad any hour of the day. Worse than that, they're going to be competing against Sopranos, Modern Family, Nurse Jackie. Any major TV franchise in the last 10 years is probably available at any point online through either legal or illegal means. And in a world where popularity and brand recognition becomes increasingly important to surface content, where television still needs advertising and sponsorship revenues from mass audiences, when where buzz and recommendation becomes increasingly important, it's important for shows to embrace the digital landscape as early as possible in a considered way. So let me give you some examples of what we're doing at All3Media about that. So first off is a show called Million Second Quiz, which has just finished on NBC in the US. Funnily enough, it lasts 1 million seconds, which equates to around about 11 nights of primetime television. But this wasn't just any ordinary quiz show, and I'm hoping if the guys upstairs have a video clip marked MSQ that we can show you a little bit about that. Can we do that? Let's see. No? Okay, I don't think we can. Let's carry on anyway. So Million Second Quiz, just to explain what the video would have told you, is effectively a television show where to qualify for it, you have to play an app. And that app is a quiz app, and you can challenge people across the US, and you get your score up, and if you get your score up, you qualify to be on this TV show. And every night on Million Second Quiz, live on NBC in the US, somebody would be doorstepped to appear on the show the next night to possibly win the largest prize in US television game show history. Now, this app was trailered about 4 weeks before we went to transmission, and by the time we went on air, we had 1 million downloads of the app. By the time the show finished its 11-night run, we had 2 million downloads of the app. We had 39 million bouts of the quiz played. So it just shows what you can do with digital media and integrating that into a TV show. And the interesting thing is that because people could sign in with Facebook, because they were excited by the prospect, they were sharing this information with friends, so it became actually quite viral. Additionally, the show was available on NBC.com 24/7. The show ran a consecutive million seconds from the point it kicked off to the point that it finished. And you could tune in any point that you wanted on any device on NBC.com. So that's one example of what we're doing in the digital space. Another example is a quiz called Was It Something I Said, which has just started on Channel 4 in the UK. Now, Was It Something I Said incorporates the first use of Twitter as a dedicated play-along companion for a TV show, again, tapping into the social marketing. Viewers are regularly directed to the show's Twitter account by the host and encouraged to answer questions at the same time as the panel. And in doing that, they're unlocking additional content that people won't otherwise see at home. They're getting their score on a leaderboard that drives back to the broadcaster's website. They're getting additional jokes from the panels. It's a quiz game show. They're getting additional animations. So people are actually taking part in this to feel that they're a bigger part of the show and sharing that experience with their friends. And what we've noticed, we've only been doing this for a couple of weeks, but from the first week, the people that started playing the game at the beginning of the show, 80% of those stuck with it and were still playing at the end of the show. So as an audience retention tool, in a world where people get trigger happy with advertising, that's quite fantastic. And then the last thing, I'm not going to try and show the video because I'm not sure it's going to work, is a show called The Only Way is Essex. And The Only Way is Essex is a fast turnaround constructed reality show. So they shoot an episode. It's the only show that works like this actually in the world. They shoot an episode, they play it out on air, the cast actually gather to see that, and they get revealed secrets for the very first time. And they then go and shoot the next episode the next day. So it's absolutely a real-life living soap opera. And fans absolutely love that because they are actually part of a live conversation. This isn't something that's been pre-recorded months in advance. They can actually get the raw emotion of the people in the show. I can't call them cast because they're not actors, but the people in the show, and go into Q&A rooms with them on Twitter. They can play with them on Facebook. They can have an ongoing conversation with the community. So we just returned to ITV2 in the UK, which is, I think, pretty much the leading digital channel at the moment. And the first episode back generated 155,000 tweets, peaking at 5,400 tweets in a minute. On Facebook, the show has a weekly reach of 1.3 million, with an individual post reaching something like 275,000 viewers. Social media for TOWIE is incredibly well organized and considered as part of that production process because it is in continuous production once it's on air. We connect the viewers to the cast. We regularly post links to galleries, to additional video that we've shot while we're making the show, and drive people back to the broadcaster website. And that's what makes the shows attractive to our customers and broadcasters and our consumers. So, in a very short summary, just as platforms have evolved from the living room that I grew up in to the connected world that we're in today, production is having to do that as well. So rather than just bolting on digital pieces and concepts as a nice little add-on once the show's locked, we're encouraging our producers to become more and more involved in digital at an early stage and consider all the things that they can do with their program before we go to air, before we actually lock the program down. Our production companies are working hard to embrace that without ostracizing audiences who do not want to be a part of it. It's very important to consider there is still a large audience that do not want to connect to shows in any other way. And the challenge really for us as a business, I mean, my part of the business is to sell content internationally, is to try and get those campaigns to travel with the show socially so that programs can be found in different markets around the world. Apologies for the video. It's an irony to be talking about television and not show you any television, but thank you very much.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you very much. TV, clearly not dead. I want to get right into actually the discussion. I was going to have a quick little thing, but we're so far behind schedule. We've got some others up here on stage, and I want them to sort of jump in here. Hussein, quick intro of yourself, because I was going to murder your last name.
Okay, so my name is Hussein Freja. I'm Managing Director of Yahoo for Middle East, Africa, and Turkey.
So we saw that slide up there, and you've seen it all the time, the gap between time spent and budget spent by brands. And this is a worldwide problem, this gap. Will it ever close?
Yeah, I think it will eventually, but I think we need to step back and look at the picture from a brand perspective, and take that picture and compare it to the same picture from a user perspective. As a user who's consuming content, is it as complex to me as it looks now to the brand? I don't think so. We are consuming content seamlessly, and we're evaluating in terms of that consumption. But the picture from a brand perspective is looking complex. We have to admit to that. And that's why the money is not following. I think the technology has changed the infrastructure of how we operate as content players. Put a lot of pressure on advertisers to extend the message distribution from the traditional means into the new streams of distribution like Spotify or social networks or mobile or others, right? And I think that disrupted the way brands operate, disrupted that ecosystem that was created 50 years ago, where a brand will set objectives and create a product, an agency will create a message, a media agency will come and distribute, and the PR company will manage the image of the company. That is being disruptive now. Technology is producing a lot of data. This data is producing a lot of insights that is leading to more how we create content as media players and brands. And I think all this needs to be created again, a new ecosystem and how we operate. Once this is created, I think money will follow.
Okay, once it's created, sometime in the future.
I think we're getting there. If you take a pure advertising landscape scene now, the rise and the quick evolution of programmatic buying, right? That is one way in terms of how brands are taking advantage of insights and data produced by this content consumption, right? Number two, the scale of content. We saw a slide around the amount of content being distributed and shared now. I think that scale and the role of the user or the consumer in production of content, high quality content, HD content is playing a big role. And I think from a technology and platform perspective, it's getting clearer now in terms of what do we need to do as brands on mobile and tablet and PC, and how the kind of TV content is migrating to those platforms. I don't think it's as complex. I mean, if you look at it from far, you say, oh my God, how are we going to crack this down? And we didn't even crack content on PC. How are we going to crack it now on mobile?
Okay, don't go to mobile yet. We're not there yet. Emmy, I want to go to you. I want to find you a microphone first. So, Emmy Gal, you are the CEO of Brainient. You guys are a video ad technology company. Yep. You're making video ads cool and interesting and interactive. Is that fair?
So basically we make video ads suck less. By making them
Wait,
interactive.
They don't suck?
Video ads. So in the audience, how many people think watching video ads in generally sucks, having to watch them? Yeah, half the. So, people don't want to watch video ads online. They want to watch the YouTube content with cats and dogs that they started watching in the first place. What we do is we try to make those video ads better because they're going to have to watch them anyway. And we make them better by making them interactive. So while you're watching an ad for a BMW, you can book a test drive, or you can find out more about the car within the video.
So to go off what we just heard, how can everyone make it easier for brands to move money online?
Well, I think the biggest problem right now is that brands don't see all types of video advertising working for them. And I think that's partly because they're treating all different devices and all different types of formats in the same way. So a brand will take a TV ad and they'll run it online and on mobile and on iPads and so on, and they'll hope that that video ad works. But they need to adapt it for the person watching it, they need to adapt it for the device in order to get some value out of that.
It's interesting because, like, on the one hand, you're saying it needs to be simpler, but then on the other hand, you're saying it needs to be customized. And I think that's sort of the story right there, is that the internet's so fragmented, and then it's getting even more fragmented with mobile and different devices, is how can we make sense of all this in a way that's easier?
Well, I think it's understanding that different things work for different types of platforms and different devices. So I have a friend who runs marketing for a big online retailer, and he was complaining that he was running Google ads and they worked great for conversion, and then he created those same ads on Facebook and they weren't working as well. And I told him that it's kind of, you know, putting an ad on Google is like putting a banner in front of a store, where putting an ad on Facebook is like putting a banner at a party. They both work, but for different types of things, right? When it's in front of a store, you can convert the person to buy. When it's at a party, all you can get is brand awareness, really.
Right. So our other sort of new participant is, and I'm going to kill his name, Chagati.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm not going to go for the last name. You're the Deputy General Manager of Andalou Agency. You're sort of a Reuters, right? I mean,
yes, it's one of the top 10 news agencies in the world, basically.
So you're licensing content. You're not worried about the monetization side.
Actually, we are very
ads.
concerned about the monetization because really, you know, you are a business, and at the end of the day, you try to come up with commercial models that's going to be consumed by the end users.
Many of your customers are using display advertising to monetize.
Not too much. Our customers are mostly media outlets, from press media to TV stations or radio stations or web portals or websites.
But I'm sure a lot of them are seeing basically the amount of money they made in sort of, let's say it's a newspaper, in the newspaper, and then the amount of money they make when that same user goes over to the website is far less.
Yes. Actually, that's a good point. Ali has mentioned that there's a shift in the content has been leveraged, and Gary also mentioned that now from photo to video we are moving much more towards. So what we see in the news agency business, it's a big challenge. So news agencies create textual news, photos and videos, and there's more demand on the much more interactive and colorful, entertaining content versus conservative and typical regular content. And news agencies have to adapt into this for monetization. And to achieve this, one of the things that Anadolu Agency has done, expand its reach on a global level with more than 50 offices in the world, soon to be 80 offices in 7 different languages. So create more content. And the second is expand or diverse this content through different channels. Like all the audience here is actually the consumer, business type consumer of the content that Anadolu Agency creates, in terms of creating applications, putting ads on the videos that has been leveraged or used, or using the photos in different environments, or coming up with infographics based on the contextual text that the news agencies that create.
Yeah. Gary, the other guy. I'm sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. You're on.
Yeah, we're on. Just since we didn't present, so I'm entitled to more time, maybe. I want to disagree here on the concept.
You can always interrupt to disagree. We love disagreement.
For customization to grow the market. I agree we need to customize by platform. That happens in TV already. The way Pepsi communicates in X Factor is different from the way they communicate in many other channels. So they customize for that. But I think, back to your question, what do we need to grow digital advertising? Is kill it. We need to kill the concept of digital advertising. I've been in the industry 12 years now.
I think you meant kill it, like do it really well.
I mean, we don't, no, kill it, just kill the concept that we need, this is standalone, that we need to deal with it separately and monitor the trend. You saw the slide of it was photo, then video, then sound, then whatever. If advertisers would spend their time just monitoring the trend and customizing by trend, that's the most least scalable model in the history of advertising. I think the principles of communication and marketing and advertising didn't change much. And what's changing is technology is enabling users and advertisers. That's producing data and insights. And then you need, as an advertiser, to create a scalable model to communicate. You cannot go and customize for every platform. It's not going to work, and that's why we're lagging.
You can use the data to do that automatically, right? As in, if you have an ad, the ad can be dynamically personalized based on the device or on the size of the screen. Because the content you can package on a big screen is not the same content you can package on a small screen. So then it makes sense to use that insight in order to customize the ad. Interesting.
Yeah. Gary, Spotify, I want to go to you. We hear a lot of talk about native formats. Now, you guys have audio ads, which I guess are native to an audio experience. You mentioned, we saw a customized program you did with Bacardi. So how do you guys think about, what the native ad is for Spotify?
Sure. So the way we look at native, there's really, in our mind, there's a bunch of dichotomies kind of nested in each other, which is really, really hard to explain. But within even native, we see two different kinds of native. One is just the ability for a brand to be able to seed their information, their content, in the same stream of consumption as all the other content in the world, right? So within Spotify, when we talk about native ads, we're talking about somebody listening to music and then hearing a brand message, or engaging by creating a playlist, and that playlist happens to have a brand associated. But at the same time, we see a different world that we're not quite there yet, where brands themselves are the ones that are actually creating the content, right? To the custom question that we're talking about is that there is a very, very custom nature to it, where the brands realize that they have the money, that they have the influence, that they're able to actually help people discover what is great new music in our context. And so those are two, in our mind, very different worlds for native, and everyone is struggling right now to figure out, are those the same things? When we identify and we say we work on native advertising, is it going to be an umbrella term that describes both of those things in the future? And I don't know. I think that eventually we're going to find a way to programmatically buy and sell what is more scalable, which is just content within the stream, right? Branded content within the stream of consumption. And we're always going to have this custom view, just like Hussein said, that is going to be brands who really want to invest in creating something that's completely new, completely unique.
Right. Gary Wolf, that sounds like, maybe your new customers are going to be brands.
I mean, potentially. The one caveat I would have with that, and we're not, our doors aren't closed to that at all. But you look at the way that some of those programs come about and how people want their brand messaging included. You take a market like the UK, I can't think of a single brand-funded show that's being recommissioned. So often what you find is what the brand wants isn't necessarily the match with what the audience or indeed what the channel wants. So I think it's an interesting path. It's a path we probably haven't gone far enough down yet to truly make work, but it hasn't worked yet.
Do you think it's one of those things, it's talked about a lot, brands as publishers, it's all about content and stuff like this, but it's really difficult to create content that anyone wants to consume, which you know. It's doubly difficult, it would seem, to create content that anyone wants to consume and conveys a brand message.
So, from a perspective of curation, the whole point that any of our businesses exist is that if you left it to brands, we wouldn't have anything like the content we have. The worst thing we could ever do is create a program that is conceived by and only for a brand. The issue for us is people come and want to discover new music, and I'm sure it's the same for Gary, because they have some level of curation. Yes, there's a level of technology, but there's also a level of curation that they understand. The same reason people go to a newspaper or a news service is they want somebody to help them work through the massive information there is.
You don't think a brand could play that role?
I think a brand can certainly help it, and they certainly, as it were, grease the wheels by helping you fund it and helping you create lots of great content. But the point is that there needs to be a separation between what the brand want to say and what the user is going to receive. And the users are very smart. They can see immediately if this is just a vehicle for promotion of a brand.
Although music videos were originally just a promotional vehicle.
Yeah, and these days there's technology that says that the car driving behind Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball could be a BMW or a Mini or whatever, whoever wants to pay for it. Now, she won't let that happen, but the technology is there to enable that.
So I think it's a bit of a sort of myth that native content is difficult to create. one of our clients at Brainian is ASOS, ASOS.com, which is a big sort of online fashion retailer. And they came to us at one point and they said, we're creating this content, we want to make it interactive, so while the models are walking on this in the video, we want to be able to click on them, find out more, and buy it, for people to potentially buy the products. And we started doing this with them, and then at one point they invited us to see how they're creating the videos. And they literally had a corner in their office with a $300 camera, and some of their employees walking in the video wearing ASOS clothing. And it probably cost them like $50 a video to create it. And they get engagement rates over 50%. So over half the people watching those videos click on the products to find out more because the content is really relevant. And I think that's ultimately the
It's
most
context, isn't it? It's context. I mean, there's very few consumer brands of that type now that don't have some sort of TV offering. But am I going to go home and watch that and sit back and watch it as part of a linear TV schedule? No, I'm not. But if I wanted to watch stuff about fashion, then I might go to ASOS and I might click on something.
Yeah. Ali, I want to...
to think about the content in which you have, the context in which you have that content. Not every content is suitable for advertising. And if you think about how you used to collect your music, you used to collect it on CDs or on LP records. Well, there wasn't an ad in between each song on your CD, was there? And so I think that, and I'll take a little bit of exception to Spotify in that it may not be the best environment for an advertiser brand to interject themselves into how someone collects their music or keeps their music collection. Whereas in the case of radio, it's something that's been part of the radio fabric for years. People accept that there's going to be a radio ad break at some point in time. And it's a little bit more native, actually, in the radio stream than it would be in the way you collect your music. So,
Gary, those are fighting words.
I like it. I like the different opinions. Listen, I think that when we look at how users use products like ours, at the end of the day, I think every user understands that there is a give and take, that they're getting music that other people are spending time and energy producing, that historically they've had to pay an arm and a leg for to collect, to be able to get access to all of that music. And now it's effectively for free. And that there's something that they have to give up, and that's the 3 minutes of ad time every 60 minutes of music listening that happens on our platform. And most of the time when we talk to a consumer, a user, certainly they will tell us, listen, ads are annoying. As a user, and even though the ad product is something I work on, I can tell you that sometimes I get annoyed by audio ads. But at the same time, they understand why the audio ads are there. There are very, very few users who actually come out and straight up say, I don't understand why Spotify is completely free and completely ad-free, right? Because I think that concept just, they know where the music's coming from. And so our goal, and we actually internally, it's really interesting, our ad product, we consider a user experience product, which not a lot of publishers do. Right? And so our goal is not to maximize inventory, not to maximize revenue, but to maximize or optimize the user experience. So we're always thinking, if we do have to intrude, how can we not be annoying, but be participatory in your content consumption in a way that actually brings value to you somehow? And that's the direction that we hope to end up.
I was saying to you earlier, I had this theory that Spotify has this algorithm that sets like how annoying the ads can be before you agree to pay. But you're saying that's not actually true.
We have a human algorithm that if we hear a bad ad, we will call the sales rep or the ad trafficker who did it and say, hey, can we be more careful next time? We are very, very, we care a lot about the user experience, even on the ad side. We don't want to turn up the annoyance of ads at all.
Okay, so final big topic, and then unfortunately we're over time. Mobile. I feel like, advertisers and content creators have not figured out the desktop yet, and now all of a sudden mobile, and the problem could be even worse. You guys are seeing a lot of traffic in mobile, and you seem to be doing okay in monetization?
Yeah, we're doing okay in monetization, but there are still many agencies who treat mobile as a separate platform, and when you go and speak to a client about doing a big, let's say a big takeover on Vivo, they say, oh, well, if you want to talk about mobile, you've got to go and talk to somebody else. Which is crazy. Mobile monetization certainly has been a challenge, I think, for everybody, but we're certainly seeing some really positive signs that clients now want to engage. And to the point earlier, clearly a mobile phone is a very different experience when you're watching music to a big screen. So from an advertiser perspective, to think about the environment and the device that you're being watched on. But I think video ads, to the point earlier, everybody gets that if they're not going to pay money, they've got to pay in their time, and their time is by ads. And I think commercial TV and commercial radio have been running long enough for people to understand that's what businesses like Spotify and Vivo survive on, is the base,
Right.
the fact that there is there is time needed to watch advertising.
So if you were to rank the challenges, would it be ad formats, targeting, or sort of organization on the buy-in side?
I think it's always two-way, but from our perspective, I don't think ad formats are the issue at all. I think the issue is about helping advertisers feel comfortable about being on new platforms, on new devices, and ultimately, money does follow eyeballs, but there is always a lag, and I don't think that the lag that we're experiencing is anything necessarily to worry about. Certainly, we're seeing very major increases almost on a month-by-month basis to the fact that advertisers feel comfortable with that.
Yeah. Hussein, Yahoo's obviously a very big mobile publisher. Search is an interesting case because it's true native experience. You search for something, you get a search result back. Has mobile found that native ad experience?
I think native will play a very important role in how we're gonna figure out the whole concept of monetization on mobile. I really believe in that. And on native, I don't think native advertising is new. And you mentioned it, like search advertising is a native. You have an ad that's relevant to whatever the search results are, and then you click based on that. Social, when you see that in the news feed, you see the ads, it's native, but it can be more relevant into that. And I think the next step is how advertisers can customize the content they're creating within that mobile experience. But back to the question on mobile, I think there are two things here, is media and mobile players has to focus more on creating the mobile experience right. We're getting there. And once you have the scale of users and engagement on mobile, in parallel, advertising will be built up. But I think the challenge with mobile now is the same challenge we faced with PC. Major advertisers wanted to adapt offline creative and messaging and squeeze it in that TVC. It worked, and then we said that's fine. We kept optimizing. And we want to do the same thing now, taking the PC and offline creative formats, and want to now squeeze it in that smaller screen, and that's not working. I think I want to go back to what I said in the beginning. It's just go back to basics and say the principles are the same, right? Create a strong message with a strong call to action, and then define what is the mobile role in the user funnel wants to go to purchase. And then this will tell you how you can leverage mobile. For a car brand, it might be a website that's very simple to put a test drive application. For P&G, it can be a great piece of content. For J&J, it can be an application. There's no one recipe that I can tell you that's what you need to do, and then you're going to figure it out.
Okay.
But I think there are brands who figured mobile out.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it up. Otherwise, Webbit's going to go into the evening. So I want to thank you all for this session. Really appreciate it. Thank you.